In today's video, we're going to be talking about housing options for disabled adults in the Bay Area. Housing is one of the main issues that keep my clients up at night. I mean, in the Bay Area, it's so expensive to live here, even for somebody who's neurotypical. Can they even afford to stay here? Now imagine if you're dealing with a disabled adult who doesn't have a stable income stream, who doesn't have much by way of resources. How are we to provide for their housing? In today's video, I have a chat with Susan Houghton of Sunflower Hill in Pleasanton, California. She and some of her friends had encountered this challenge, and they came up with a very creative solution to provide housing to all the disabled kids in that area, and also, I believe, to become a model for many other people who are looking into what solutions can we find for our children with disabilities. So Susan, I know you're part of a wonderful group that really did a lot of investigating, and I'd love to kind of hear just also your background, what got you interested in this field, and hear your journey with Sunflower Hill and just in general.
Sure. Well, thank you. And a lot to talk about. We could probably spend several hours. So I'll just kind of give you the executive version and feel free to follow up, with anything that sounds interesting or resonates. You're totally correct. John Elfin's son, Jake, is one of 30 residents at Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch. And this is a kind of an inclusive community for individuals with special needs in Pleasanton, California. My son, Robbie, is also a resident there. And we feel very fortunate that our sons are part of those individuals who are selected to live there. We started the journey for Sunflower Hill 10 years ago, actually, wow. And it was a group of parents who were asking the very same questions that you're posing today. What's going to happen to my child when I die? Where will he live? Can he afford to live? Or I can't even have him live or her live with me anymore because I'm getting too elderly. We have to all think about that to a certain extent. And, at the time that happened, this was, 2012, more than 80% of individuals with special needs lived with their parents long-term. And the options were not great. On one end of the spectrum, you had the group homes or the institutional living, and that's when Agnew and Sonoma hospitals were still active and open. And, a lot has changed in those 10 years. And group homes were more prevalent than they were now, actually. And, you had that option. You had the option of on the other end of the spectrum, and that was, full-blown living in your apartment and being able to maybe get an affordable housing unit, or maybe living in an ADU of your parents or something along those lines. And for, those individuals who might be in the middle, neither were really great choices. Mm-hmm. So we came up with this idea early on, the parents, of, something akin to senior living, where we wanted the benefits of a safe and secure environment, but the freedom to live in your own apartment and to be able to do what you want to do. And if you can cook on your own, cook on your own. But if you can't, and you need some help, you can also get help. Mm-hmm. And so that's how Sunflower Hill really started. It started with a dream, as many families dream. Mm-hmm. And we proceeded, and no one told us we couldn't do it. So we just kept plodding along. And along the way, we developed a beautiful garden at Hageman Ranch. And John's wife, Lynn Monica, was actually one of the visionaries behind that. And that is a space, really. Sunflower Hill likes to say places and spaces. So that's a space right now that individuals with special needs can go and work and thrive in a garden environment. So we are looking at Irby Ranch as the first of several inclusive communities that we want to develop. We have plans underway in Lafayette, California as well. And we think the model needs to be replicated, and we're happy to help parents and other organizations kind of think through that process of what to do for their own loved ones and individuals.
Well, I love what you said, Susan, about it kind of being modeled after senior living, because we've done a lot, well, not me, but, society, we've done a lot of work on how do we best support our seniors. Right. And there's a lot of similarities between the senior community and special needs community. In fact, even in the legal field, special needs planning is often linked to elder planning, right? So because we have issues of partial capacity, of being able to do some things but not other things, and wanting people to be as independent as possible while recognizing the need to protect them and to provide a safe space, as you said, to go and grow. I
I
love
would
that.
agree. And most of the individuals at Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch are probably partially conserved. My son
Mhm.
is partially conserved. And,
Mhm.
he can get up in the morning and make waffles and make his bed and do that daily routine. But if somebody knocked on his door and said, gosh, give me your wallet or give me all your money, he'd hand you his wallet and want to make sure
Mhm.
you were happy about it afterwards.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, many of our kids don't understand the full dangers that can exist in society. And so I think the model at Sunflower Hill, it's you have to have a key to get in. You cannot just walk in. They all know each other. Caregivers are around to kind of support. And Sunflower Hill as an organization has really created some fun activities, that exist every day on site
Mhm.
so that you can walk down and work out in the gym or take a crafting class or, be able to go watch a movie with your friends. And you think, especially in COVID, for many of our kids, it was very isolating experience. And the
Yeah.
goal is to be able to have shared commonality and shared community in a positive manner, but still have the freedom to be independent and non-social if that's not what you want to do. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's so fabulous. So can I ask you financially, how did this come together? Where did you get the funds for this?
Sure. So, we started off doing some research early on, looking at other models in California. And at the time, Sweetwater Spectrum up in Sonoma was considered kind of the Taj Mahal of where to live, and an
Mhm.
incredible group of parents who just said, we're going to do this. If not us, then who, whatever, kind of
Mhm.
doing that. And that actually, Margaret Mead quote really became our mantra, never
Okay,
doubt what a small group of committed citizens and thoughtful citizens can do to change the world.
that's right.
It's the only thing that it ever has. And so we said, okay, we can do this. But we knew that for Sweetwater Spectrum, the opening cost to reserve a slot for your child was $1 million.
Woo, that's a lot.
And maybe by Northern California, standards now, that didn't seem like a lot, but we were blown away. And none of us had $1 million, even though the priority of our child was really important. So we started looking into affordable housing partnerships. And I'll be honest with you, when we started, I knew nothing about affordable housing.
Mm.
But we were lucky enough in Pleasanton to find a developer who was interested in building a subdivision in Pleasanton, who had to check that box on their affordable housing component.
Oh,
All
wow.
developers, you can pay into a fund, you can do a set aside some other place, or you can actually build affordable housing. And remember, this was back in the late 20 teens. And so, affordable housing wasn't as a high priority as it is in the last couple of years.
Mm.
So it was a very novel concept to actually deed, almost 2 acres to a nonprofit organization, us, and say these 30 units will check the box on our affordable housing requirement. And that's exactly what Mike Serpa did in Pleasanton, a developer, and he developed the Irby Ranch complex and
Mhm.
set aside 2 acres for us. And we went through the typical planning process with the city of Pleasanton and the city council, and they were so supportive. Pleasanton, we feel very fortunate, is a community of character. That's their brand, and they really live it. So they
Mm.
said, come in. Yes, we want to embrace developmentally disabled individuals in this community and specifically in the subdivision. So going through that affordable housing process and partnering with an affordable housing developer, Satellite Affordable Housing, which we did, meant that we could apply for state tax credits. It also meant that we could get county bond money. So we ended up getting about $7 million from the Alameda County as part of their A1 bond funding. We
Mhm.
got money from the city of Pleasanton. We also got money from the state, in which we became, on this tax credit project, the #1 special needs set aside project in the state during that cycle. So we were very fortunate. Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch was completely publicly developed with public funds. It is really an affordable housing community similar to many other affordable housing communities. It's just got criteria that you have to have developmentally delayed individuals living in there, and a preference for those individuals who belong to a regional center clients,
Mhm.
and specifically in our case, a preference for individuals who live in the Tri-Valley, Livermore, Pleasanton, or Dublin. And so
Okay.
that kind of narrowed the criteria. But my son, John's son, all had to go through a very competitive process
Mhm.
in order to be in. We filed an application and it was a lottery system.
Mhm.
So there was a good chance that our sons could not, would not be selected.
Oh my goodness. After really
And
putting all this work into it. Well, I'm
yes,
glad
and
you get to benefit. Oh,
we
wow.
knew that, all of our board knew that, and we did it because it was the right thing to do. And you got to hope for divine intervention as part of that.
Yeah.
And we were actually, my son was one of the very last ones to be selected, so I was
Oh,
crossing my fingers
yeah.
and as part of it, but luckily we were. And what's hard is that there are so many on the waiting list who were not.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's really the need. I think right now affordable housing is hot. People are worried about homeless. And rightly so.
Yep.
We have to make sure, though, that our kids, our population, are not forgotten in that discussion. And I think it's
That's right.
really easy to do that because they can't advocate for themselves. And as parents, we all know the journey that we've been on can get tiring at times, right? You don't want everything to have to be a struggle. You just want to hit that easy button and kind of go, okay, you know what? It's working. So that is kind of the journey. Now, in terms of costs, Irby Ranch, Sunflower Hill is between 20 and 60% AMI. So that means that you can have 20 to 60% of the average median income, affordable median income to house. In my case, my son's rent is $1,099 a month, which is unheard of in the Bay Area.
Yes.
Social Security, his check is $1,000 a month. So we're moving that Social Security check right over to pay for his rent. And, one thing that's great about, affordable housing is your rent increases are few and far between, hopefully. And so he can live at Sunflower Hill Ranch for the rest of his life. And we feel very fortunate about that.
Oh, I bet that helps you sleep at night.
It does.
Knowing that there's a place and you can go and visit him as much as you want, I'd assume, right?
I can go daily if I want to, but part of the goal is to really have him live his life.
That's
and I think it's hard for many parents, like, what is that happy medium? You let them make mistakes. For many of the kids, and they're not kids, they're adults, obviously, at Sunflower Hill.
But they'll always be kids to us.
They are always our kids. And I think navigating their own social networks and learning how to deal with their own problems. You get locked out of your apartment, what do you do? So it's a journey for them as part of that. And that's why the support staff, that we are fortunate that we have many supportive living services agencies that help the clients at Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch. We have great staff there, and it's got to work together as a community, a collaborative, collective group of individuals who put that same person-centered planning for our kids front and center.
Wow. Well, I have to say, Susan, it really sounds like you guys cracked the code. Like, this is amazing that you figured out a way, first of all, to utilize, and at that time it wasn't such a hot topic, right? But to utilize the affordable housing method, which is what we really need for our kids, and then bring all of these resources together. I'm sure there were a lot of people, writing grant applications. Those are not easy, right? So how many families were working on this at the same time? I'm trying to get an idea of what this takes.
Well, I think, early on, especially when we started the garden, we really created a vision of join us and together we can do this. So we had hundreds of families behind us. Not all of them were ready to have their children move into Sunflower Hill or to get on that waiting list. But more importantly, we had community leaders, we had elected officials, we had people who did not have an individual special needs in their family believing in the vision. And I think that's what propelled us, is that we had people go, oh my gosh. And, yes, if I can do one thing to help an individual special needs, whether they live at Sunflower Hill or whether they're working at the garden or whether or not they're doing something as part of our program participants. We have things like popcorn chats online and other programs and services that you don't have to live at Irby Ranch to participate in. So the goal was just to really broaden the world of many individuals with special needs. But I want want to make sure that I give a shout out to many other sister communities in California, because there are many other ones that didn't follow the affordable housing model, but did like limited liability corporations where families came in, or did different kinds of mechanisms in order to get a community built. Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch ended up costing about $22 million. And that's, that's not small chump change as part of that. But there are families who've also been able to recreate opportunities similar to Sweetwater Spectrum for less than $1 million that deserve a shout out. I think it's important for families, if they're living in an area where all of our kids go to school together, they're in Special Olympics together, these people, your kids grow up with them, to start that discussion locally and to say, what model do we want? And start by exploring. I mean, we did a lot of research. We visited a lot of different places. What's right for us in our community? Do we want to just create something small for 10 individuals? Well, you can go buy a duplex for that if that's something you want to do, right? What is important in that discussion? And we went back and forth on that with many of our families. And, how we ended up with Irby Ranch is that we wanted it for the kids who were kind of in the middle, who couldn't fully live on that apartment just down the street on their own, but certainly were above a group home situation, or at that time, Agnew and Sonoma. And I think as Sunflower Hill evolves, those kinds of discussions will change. So the Lafayette property might be, higher functioning individuals or more independent individuals. There might be opportunities to do something else. But I think it's important that families look at their individual needs of banding together and make a commitment to do it. No one told us we couldn't do it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm sure I answered some very stupid questions about affordable housing early on. And, people were looking at me and I'd be like, okay, well, I've got to research that then, or I've got to hire an expert to help me on that then, because I didn't know the answer. But I was determined to make it work, because what was the alternative? The alternative is status quo,
which is not sufficient,
right?
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I think it's so valuable what you're sharing about really finding the model that works for you. I mean, one of my goals with doing these videos is providing different opportunities that people can watch. Before COVID, I had this vision of having like a big event and bringing everybody together, and we could have different speakers and stuff. And now it's kind of like, I don't really want to do a big event anymore, but I feel like, if we can look and even for 5 minutes kind of see, all right, this is how Sunflower Hill developed. Do we have those types of resources or that type of community where people can really rally behind? Do we have the connections to the community leaders and start, putting a bug in their ear, right? I live in East Palo Alto, so affordable housing is a huge issue here, right? And we're talking about it all the time. And I think developing that for those with developmental disabilities would be so phenomenal. My son is 9 now, right? And he has high functioning autism. I think something like this would be terrific for him. He might be able to be on his own in an apartment, but we don't know yet. And it's always a growing and changing field.
It is. And I think, as you look at how the world is addressing affordable housing in particular, I always thought it'd be good to buy up old motels, because that old motel of that Route 66 motel, that might be a way to change something in, or old schools. I mean, we looked at a nunnery early on. I mean, we were looking at everything, old camps that could be converted. And I think you've got to have those out of the box kind of discussions, but start with a core group of families and say, we're in it. Our kids are, in it for the long haul. And it can't be just about us, because you won't resonate with your government leaders and your elected officials if it's just, I need a place for my own child, right? It's got to be, how do you evolve an opportunity? And maybe not everyone has an opportunity for housing, but they have an opportunity to go to the garden, or they have an opportunity to participate in programs, or they have an opportunity, to be a part of a bigger whole social organization that is really advancing the needs of those individuals. So I think there's lots of ways to go. For me, I have 2 other sons, but I did not want my sons to be burdened with where Robbie lives after I pass away.
Mhm.
And it's one thing to be there for them on all the holidays and the social aspects, but it can be draining, as we all know,
Oh yeah.
to be there, when your child has gone to Holland and you thought you were going to Italy, as K.A., that famous poem, that going to Holland.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, and I have this conversation regularly with my clients because they figure, oh, well, Susie, Joey's sister, well, she'll just take care of him. It's like, but you want Susie to be living her highest and best life too, right? Your sons, you want them to be able to go and live where they want to live and raise the family they want to raise. And we know as special needs parents, it's a full-time job. So we wouldn't want to impose that, on one of our kids. Now there's other ways to keep them involved with the holidays, with the supervision and stuff. But no, it's really, really true.
SLS services, I think, are so important to the success of Sunflower Hill, and we are very grateful. And those are going individually planned. So you're residing at Sunflower Hill, you're partaking in the activities that our organization gives, but you also have your own, person-centered plan that allows you to have individual caregivers supporting your services.
And how does that start? Is that through the regional center? Where do you get this? Okay.
So, if you are a regional center client, it starts with a conversation with your case manager. And before you move out on your own, you can actually begin with independent living services. How do you grocery shop? How do you cook? How do you make your bed? And they can find agencies that will provide individuals to help you learn those skills. It's hard to get. Some families have to wait a very long time because, like with everything in the Bay Area, we have a worker shortage as part of that. But I would encourage people to start with their case manager, and when they're doing your IPP planning, vision what that looks like and start setting the motion in place so that when they do reach 18 or 22 or 25, you've been talking for 5 years, 10 years on how important this vision is and how Regional Center can help you execute it. I think it's important to try to find your own activities that can be supplemented. Special Olympics is a great opportunity to be able to do that. And I know that regional centers, at least Regional Center of the East Bay, where we are a member, they're really pushing those inclusive activities. So opportunities for those with DD to integrate into typical environments. So finding those as much as you can is important.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. My kids go to Hope Technology School, which is fully inclusive. So
yes, that's right.
Yeah, so we love that model. And our typical son, who's younger, he's learning how to be more patient and empathetic, and doesn't come naturally. He's doing awesome.
Yeah, some days it's okay, and then other days it's not, and you just
exactly
kind of roll with it. And but for us, some days it's okay, and some days it's
exactly not. Oh yeah. Some days I'm patient, and some days
right. I'm like, okay, really, we're going to do this again? But you do, because that's what you do, and it's a journey, as we all know.
Yeah, that's so true. Wow. Well, Susan, you've provided such amazing information and materials and just ideas of where to get started. I feel like so many of us are on the beginning steps of this journey, and it's so inspiring to see it, even if it took 10 years, what that path might look like and how to carry that out, because I think it's worth it to work for several years to really get something in place that can work for your child for the rest of their life.
Thank you.
Regardless of how long you'll be around. Yeah.
We feel very fortunate. There was an incredible group of committed families early on, supplemented by great staff, advisors, elected officials, community leaders, all who said, yes, we believe in you. We believe in this vision. And, we have a great new executive director leading Sunflower Hill right now. And, we're happy to help pay it forward, because we benefited from people helping us, and we want to be able to pay it forward.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to reach out once they see this and really see, how can they either model something after this, or take the things that might work for your community and then supplement them with what works for their community.
Absolutely. And it starts by going to our website, sunflowerhill.org, and you can read all about us and a little bit about our history. We also have YouTube channels and there are videos with parents early on that might be inspiring and helpful. And then contact our staff and our executive director, Jen Leonard Benson. She's happy to help as well. So happy to do anything we can to pay it forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Susan.
Thank you
Nice
for
talking to
asking
you.
me, and
Yeah.
good luck to the families. It's one step at a time. It can be
Thanks.
overwhelming, but you know what? You can do it.
That's right. That's right. I love the motto that you shared earlier. Like a small group of committed people. That's how we win over the
No
world.
doubt. It's the
That's
only
right.
thing that's changed the world.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So now you've learned more about at least one of the affordable housing options here in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you have additional questions on how to properly set up a special needs trust in California, I invite you to go to this video over here where I talk about creating special needs trusts. I'll see you over there.